Why?
Welcome back to Scrap Mechanic Labs. I'm so excited to bring to you my take on the Devblog 13, my opinion of it, and we're going to talk about a couple of little surprises that was interesting that I noticed with the Devblog 13 sort of publicity material package that they gave us here. Where do I begin? Where do I start with all of this? Well, one of the first things I did was I had to take a really close look at these pictures. I mean, content aside, there really wasn't a whole lot of content that you might see in-game, but there really was some important things that I do want to touch upon. First being, let's look at this new assets. Let's pull up my new assets thing here real quick. And we're going to take a closer look at this picture. And this is actually concept art. How do we know it's concept art? If you look in the bottom right hand corner here, you see Tony H. put together this picture of it's got a very post-apocalyptic Wall-E-ish kind of feel to what's going on. I mean, with the mechs here cleaning up garbage. If you look closely, you'll see a crashed ship right in there, and of course our little scrap mechanic staring at the mess that is this massive scrapyard section of the planet that the developers were telling us about. Very interesting, really cool. And I mean, if you're looking for scrap to build stuff in, this looks like the place to find it. Whether this is a clue to the origins of where we crash, or where we land to start off the game, who knows? But anyway, so they throw these little Easter eggs in. Whether the artist collaborated with them on this or not, I don't know. It's like I said, it's all very theory-ish kind of things. So let's move on to some other assets here. The other really cool stuff that they mentioned was the modularity of our spud gun. They're pretty much showing us the types of interchangeable parts you'll be able to get to put a spud gun together, as well as the different launch nozzles that you would be able to put on the end here to fire Gatling style, sniper style, shotgun style maybe, not sure, as well as what looks like a kind of rail system that you strap on, which you'll be able to put a sight or something else, I'm not sure, some kind of clamp there for maybe other accessories that they haven't shared with us yet. Anyway, this is really cool. As far as other assets, here's where it gets really, really exciting. And probably, for me, one of the best parts about the new update. And that is our ability to be able to completely modify the terrain with this terrain builder tool. Now, the picture was kind of small, but after zooming in on it a little bit, I was able to see a few of the features of the terrain editor that they were adding. As you can see, you're going to have something called, I'm pretty sure that says blur height. So over a field of distance, you'll be able to blur out certain things. You get that sort of hazy distance look. That'll actually be something that looks like it'll be controllable. I'm not sure what this says. Flatten height. It looks like your basic toolbar here for editing a terrain. Oh my gosh, I'm actually pulling on that. Okay, another neat thing here, and this tells us a lot about how a scrap mechanic world is generated. It appears as though our terrain tool, or our terrain editor, is actually going to function as a rendering type of tool, which means once you've designed all your terrain, placed all of your rocks and trees and elevations and made all your paths, then you'll render it into something that Scrap Mechanic, the game, will be able to use so that there's very little lag associated with that build. Now, this can take us into some serious theory territory, because when you build and you pre-render something like this so that the game can use it more efficiently, this is foresight into the methods and the systems at which these developers are optimizing and making this game scalable. Alright, this is a scaling technique, whereas you take all these assets, you combine them into a map, and then you render that map so that when that map is played in the game, everything is pre-rendered and you're not constantly having to render things as you go. That's what slows a game down, that's what makes a game laggy. So I would love to see a similar tool like this for some of our larger builds, because if we're building something huge, right, bring it into the terrain editor and render it. Just pre-render it and it'll be like an accessory object. It'll all be one object in the game. So if you have your favorite car, you could pre-render it. Same way you're rendering the terrain here. Why not? Why can't we do that? That would be amazing for the future of the game, and that would eliminate so many laggy things. Of course, the objects that you would pre-render, whether it be your spaceships, your cars, your whole buildings with elevators, they would all function as one unit and contribute as much lag as, say, one pre-rendered tile piece would create. So what this means could mean so incredibly so much for the future of the Scrap Mechanic game and where we can take our ideas. There could be almost no limit to the ideas. If we're going to be getting a terrain rendering tool, I would love to see a build rendering tool, a pre-rendering tool that once it's spawned in, it would probably have to be integrated kind of into what's they're called, the blueprints. The way blueprints work would have to be changed quite a bit. There'd be two different types of blueprints. There'd be like a model blueprint where when you spawn it in from that blueprint, it'll be a complete thing that you can't tear apart because it's a rendered object. It would function as a rendered object in the game. But the game itself, you're building objects, so it's I could go on this for a long time, but I need to move on. I need to move on to some other stuff, because basically me seeing the render time here means that we will be rendering and building our own maps and then sharing those maps, and that'll be, wow, that'll be super cool. Let's move on to some of the other. Okay, this is a Devblog 13 main. This was another area that I examined really closely, and I thought to myself, there's just not a whole lot of secrets in here that looks like there were any Easter eggs. So let's move on. This one, the reason I like this picture so much from Devblog 13 was this looks like real in-game assets. It's not concept art like the first picture I showed you that we talked about. This looks like a real game screenshot, alright? We're actually in the game. And the detail and everything, and the big hint was the grass, because I'm very familiar with Scrap Mechanic grass. I know what it looks like. So the parallax kind of thing between the grass and the background looked like something I was very familiar with in game. So this in-game screenshot shows us what looks like up here in this top right hand corner another wrecked ship, or I guess the best way I could put it was this in-game asset, or this area, was inspired by that concept art. So that's why we see this crashed wreckage, and you see a ship right here. Will this be our starting point in the game? I don't know. If you think we might start off in this scrapyard at the beginning of the survival mode game, then let me know, because I'm interested to see whether this is just a really old ship that was crashed here. If this is even a ship at all. You could zoom in really close on this. Take a look. This reminds me of one of the housings from one of the ship, and the shape here is very reminiscent, but as we zoom in it gets really, really pixely. So it's really hard to tell if that's another engine there on the other side or a doorway. But this the stuff is really exciting. Devblog 13 really dropped a big wow bomb on us here in the scrap mechanic community, and this was super cool. Another thing I want to hit on here is the arsenal. They talk about how the spud gun is going to shoot, and whether gravity is going to play into the spud, and whether that'll have an arch to it, and whether you'll have to shoot it kind of like you would try to like shoot above your target and stuff, I think is what they were talking about here. But the other really cool thing are the giant maps. They give us a little bit of panning here, showing us the entire field of view from the new larger maps, and it looks humongous. You can't even see the edge of the world, and look at how tall that mountain is. That looks... the scale is going to be so massive. And I play in worlds with a lot of people in them at times, and having people spread out in a world this size will come with its own sets of challenges. But since I'm kind of in theory mode anyway, I'm going to talk a little bit about what those challenges are and how we can make the game so much more immersive, so much more fun with the terrain here in the world that we're playing. But for me to do that, we're going to need to hop back to update 0.2.11 and talk a little bit about that too. So yeah, we're going to go into a little bit of overtime here in this video and talk more about this update, but not so much about the sensor. We're going to talk about these new parts. And these parts, these new blocks and parts, which are pretty much a telecommunications kit. So I'm going to nickname this one the telecommunications update, because these towers, these dishes, these antennas, why even add it? Why make it a part of this update? Why was this a thing? Is one of the questions I have to ask myself. And the reason why I think it's a thing is going to be based on a theory. And the theory is that there is going to be a major communication update. I'm not sure when. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work. But instead of us pressing enter to chat in game, this is my hope. This is my dream for a communication update. Localized communication. I've played in games where I have 10 or 12 people, and it is a noise fest. If they're going to address this type of multiplayer problem, and it's going to happen, these would be the parts that we would need to address that problem. We would need communications towers. We would need a localized type of audio system, whereas when two players are near each other, they would just hear each other locally. But as the two players move away from each other, they'll become more and more of a background noise, and only the people in your immediate vicinity would you be able to talk to. So you're probably saying, Chief, that's really cool, and there are a lot of games that do function like that, but where do these towers come in? Okay, this is where it gets super cool. This is where where Scrap Mechanic as a game takes it to the next level. If they go down this path, which I really hope they do, because like I'm saying with my fingers up in parentheses, this is just a theory based on these blocks and parts that they've recently added, this telecommunications pack. And the theory is in-game communication is going to be a serious thing. It's going to be a real thing. There's going to be hand radio operators, and you'll be able to set up an antenna tower on one part of the map while you have your main base with another antenna tower there. And you'll be able to radio your friends as long as they're near the tower and near their radio. And you'll be able to hear them talking to you, telling you, this is what I found, these resources over here, and these are my coordinates. And it'll be like real hand radio operation, simulated in the game through a specialized type of like voice chat that would be enabled through the radios and the things that you build in game. How incredible would that be? How awesome would that be if not only are you building junkers and vehicles to get from one place to another, but now you need to bring some tower material so that if you find a good spot, you could raise an antenna and beam back your message to your base. It'd be incredible if you could do these types of telecommunications systems, and you'd have to power the antenna. If you're too far away, you'll need to use a special antenna and aim it. Then they'll need to be setting up the dish at their base and try to get that dish aimed right, using your bearings and adjusting. The gameplay possibilities for this type of thing, for a communications implementations in this game, would be awesome. Now I know you guys are thinking, we have Discord and we could just talk through Discord and we could beat it. You don't need to have to set up a radio tower. You can just be in Discord and tell your friend, yeah, you could do that. Of course you could do that. But I'm talking about immersion. I'm talking about feeling like you're really in the place and you're really doing the things in the game. Now nothing can beat that. I would hang up my Discord in an instant, because this would facilitate more organization and more realism in the game. I would be able to just be talking to the people in my immediate vicinity. I would be able to send some friends out on a mission to go find resources and let them know to head west or east or north. We're going to aim our dish that way, so that if you guys have a message, you can put up if you guys end up in a bad place or a bad spot, if you get pinned down by some robots or some enemy machines or anything like that, you have to erect your tower and make sure you aim it at this degree this way, this degree that way, and when we pick up your signal, we'll have a man at the radio tower. We'll be able to find out if you're doing okay, whether you want us to send enforcements over there or whether you found nothing. And dude, it would be so cool. People on the radio listening in, people in vehicles setting up portable radio stations to be able to listen in on other stuff going on. Dude, this would be so awesome. Alright, I wrapped it up with a theory. I thought that idea, and it was all inspired by these parts, because these parts, they're here for a reason. And I don't think it's just to look cool. I think that there may be some plans in the works for this. So that pretty much wraps up this video. I hope you liked it. I was your host, Chief Engineer. Sometimes I forget to say that. Keep dreaming, keep building, guys. And I'm going to wrap this up because this Devblog 13 thing has just blown me away. It was really awesome. I'll put links to the Devblog in the description of this video, as well as my Discord and my Steam community. You guys got to check it out. We have the best community in the whole scrap mechanic world. In the whole world, in my opinion. So, I hope you guys check in for the next video next time. I throw them up randomly. I'm a pretty random guy. Till next time, I was your host, Chief Engineer, signing off.